Saw a guy on TV last night. He was talking about white privilege, and he made some valid points about white privilege, that just simply because of the color of my skin, I might be able to get a better interest rate. Why? It's not really white privilege. It's, well, a lot of behind the scene things going on. And I'll tell you that when I was in the aircraft factory, there was a guy who liked Malcolm X, and he'd be like talking about the white man's trying to keep the black man down. And he was making $25 an hour in the aircraft factory. But the truth of the matter is, it's not the white man trying to keep the black man down. The rich man is trying to keep the poor man down, maybe. Maybe that might be true. The man with the money doesn't like to give it out. And so we see the government giving a lot of money to their banker friends. For instance, in 2008, they bailed out the banks, and we all went bankrupt or just got broke, or whatever we got in 2008. We sure didn't get any help. And so now we have a Robin Hood mentality of sending out all these stimulus checks, which are really robbing from the rich to give to the poor, because every set of stimulus checks that goes out, every $2 trillion that's going out, is going out to excuse me, something popped up on my screen. It's going out and it's devaluing our dollars. And so I just want to say that it's crazy what's going on. I'll tell you something. I know about discrimination, okay? Because I had been discriminated against when I was a young man. I ended up going in the Air Force when I was 25 because of the discrimination that I had encountered, because like my son-in-law Josh, I wanted to become a police officer, but I could not become a police officer because I was white. They could not hire any white people to be police officers in the mid 1980s, the early 1980s, I should say. It was about 1980 when I applied to be a police officer. I ended up getting a job as a Domino's Pizza delivery driver instead. They said they couldn't hire any white people because the amount of black people that they had to hire had not been met. They had a quota that they had to hire, and yes, discrimination needed to be rectified, but I was being discriminated against in order to rectify that. So I had to pay the price of everybody else's discrimination, because believe me, I was not discriminating against anyone. Some of my best friends were black in school. Used to love to hang out with them, and so I got discriminated against there. I wanted to work with my father at Akron City Hospital, and they could not hire me there because of the same thing. Because of affirmative action, they could not hire any white people. And so instead, because of all of that discrimination, I ended up joining the Air Force. But I will tell you something, and we just had Black History Month, but during Black History Month, and believe me, we should hear about the Black history, and we should hear about the history of what went on. But I never hear about anyone like my family in Ohio and Pennsylvania that helped to get the runaway slaves to Canada. in a chain of homes called the Underground Railroad. My families, who were Amish, took in the slaves and fed them and got them safely to Canada. And I never hear about all of the thousands of white people who went to war from the North, led by Ulysses S. Grant, the only president that we had who was decommissioned as an officer and thrown out of the Army. And then when things got really bad in the Civil War, they said, hey, you drunken ex-officer, why don't you come and be our general and lead us in conquest over the South? And he did. Didn't go down quite that way, but in one day, we're talking about Vietnam, in one day's battle, 50,000 people died in one battle in the Civil War. And that was when the North broke through the Southern line, which was impenetrable. They did it, and it cost a lot of lives, a lot of white lives laid down for the freedom of the slaves in the South. We could have turned a blind eye up north, but we had the moral value that was our nation was founded on, that all, what's it say, that we have unalienable rights, that we're all created by God, and that we all have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by our Maker, our God. And that's where I want to lead this conversation. If you want to lead the conversation in any direction, let's lead it up, okay? So just as the Washington Monument points up, we need to focus our vision up to the Creator in heaven, where we can find a privilege that isn't white, that isn't black, that isn't Latino, but it is privilege of being an adopted son of the Creator of the universe. And you want to talk about privilege, the privilege of being blessed by God with 2 children of natural birth, blessed by God by giving me 2 more children to raise and to love and be loved by, the blessing of God to give me a friend like I call my best friend Brett Quinn in Georgia. Awesome. The blessings that God can pour out into our lives, and that's a privilege by being the adopted son of the Creator of the universe, by putting your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ. And I pray that you will do that, that you'll put your trust in Jesus Christ, and that you'll have privilege that goes from one end of the universe to the other.